Okay, Julian, I'm just going to take you through your essay feedback. So, the first thing I noticed, which was really good, was that you've included here that you're going to use peel, which is a really, really good way to structure your essay. One thing I wish you had done, though, was highlight the important parts of the question. And the reason is later on, I think you get a bit confused with the other question that was to do with control. So just always start by highlighting how far, terror, most important, consolidate power, and the years that are included in the essay as well. So your essay starts strong, linked to the question straight away, talking about that Germany were ruled by fear, why that's evident, the fact that they were heavily exploited by the Nazis, and then the laws that they used to do this legally. And some great key terms used there in your actual introduction, and also you link back to the question right at the end with this bit about consolidating power. Very, very strong start in paragraph 1. You talk about key dates with the Reichstag fire. Nice to see so many key dates, key people in there as well. More key dates. You talk about important factors and because. Now I love seeing the word because in there because that means you're about to explain something. And then you do go on to explain it there. Again, some really nice detailed evidence in here, talking about Hitler removing his opposition. And then you go into some nice detail about how they created fear of communism and link that to the Reichstag fire being a form of terror. And then a nice link to the question at the end there as well on how this played a part in them consolidating power. So a strong start. Moving on to the next part of your essay. You end strong on that first paragraph. And then you talk about the Reichstag fire again, giving him unrestricted power. When the Reichstag voted. And a really important here that you could have emphasised a little bit more was that he did this legally. Because you could have talked about the legality of what he did being a different factor to terror. Because once he was doing things legally, there was no need to use terror. But he used terror to be able to get to that place where what he was doing was legal. Nice connectives here, therefore. And then you go on with some nice key information here. I mean, the amount of evidence you've remembered to remember by heart is really impressive, Julian, so well done. You go on to explain your point here, saying how it allowed Hitler to legally remove democracy and start a dictatorship. Every time you mention terror, that's linking back to the question, which is great. And then you move on to the Enabling Act. The only thing I will say is the end of this is a little descriptive, and so it would be nice to see a good link to the question at the end of this paragraph here. Okay, I liked this part of your essay. In addition, that's a good connective. Talking about a key date, that links back to the question straight away. Anything in green is good in your essay. Anything in blue, I just want you to revise. So here is a small point. The Night of the Long Knives was necessary. I think you've missed out a because there. And that's important because every time we see the word because, we know that you're about to explain a point. You talk about the SS, the SA, and what happened to Raum. Some nice detail here, talking about, most importantly, great connective, the fact that he was legalising murder. And then you end here terror was the most important reason, it would actually be nice, I'm just going to highlight that in blue, if you linked that more explicitly to what you've just talked about in that paragraph, because this sounds a little bit separate from what you've just written here. Okay. However, nice, shows you're about to counter argument, and then you talk about the death of Hindenburg being a different factor from terror in the Nazis consolidating their power. Nice bit about Nazi exploitation there, and Volksmine shaft there, and the fact that it glorified the war in the Aryan race. Just some really nice detail in your essay. When we start here, you say here that you're starting a new paragraph. I wouldn't start a new paragraph with an example, women were forced. You want to start it with an example of this would be, or just make it sound a bit better, that link to that next paragraph isn't very strong. And also, women weren't forced not to work. So just revise that bit of the sentence, maybe do a bit of research on how they were encouraged not to work. Because the people disagreed, who disagreed with Hitler would have been sent to concentration camps is good. Change that to may have, or would likely have been sent to a concentration camp, because it didn't happen all the time. Also, this clearly presented blah blah blah, a little descriptive here. So some good description in terms of there's some good facts in there about what did happen to people who disagreed, but we need to be careful to link that back to the question straight away. You start in conclusion, a nice clear way to start your conclusion, but then you talk about terror. That's good because you're talking about the question, linking to the question. Was very crucial for the Nazis to gain control of Germany. Just be careful there, that's the other essay title. So can we make the start of your conclusion here link more closely to what this actual question was about, please? I've highlighted this all in green because you had some great facts in there and some good explanation. I like what you said in the rest of your conclusion here. The only thing I would think about changing is this. The extent of the Nazis' terror was small compared to the reasons such as the Reichstag fire. I don't know if you ran out of time, but that's a bit of a weak way to end what has been a very strong conclusion. See if you can think of a better way. So something like other factors such as propaganda and the exploitation of a fear of communism were more important than terror in consolidating the power of the Nazi Party or Hitler or whatever. And just be careful, because actually you're saying terror was small, but earlier on in your essay you said that the Reichstag fire was a form of terror. So your conclusion becomes a little bit confused when we look at it from that point of view. Okay, so moving on to your actual marks for this. This is the mark scheme that an examiner will use. It's a general mark scheme for a 20-mark question on the new specification. And I'm going to start by doing what all examiners will do, including me, which is looking at level 3. That's the middle band, and we're talking DC borderline there. And this is the band where we start from to see whether you've met everything in this band and whether then we should be looking at level 4 or lower level 2, which is unlikely because what I've read so far is really good. So the question's partly addressed. It's definitely at least partly addressed. I would go so far as to say it is generally addressed. I wouldn't say that there's a mostly consistent focus on the question, only because it's a little descriptive in parts, although you were nearly there. There's a demonstration of some relevant knowledge, absolutely, and understanding. I'm going to say generally accurate and sometimes detailed knowledge and understanding. which is evaluated and analysed in parts of the answer, but in places knowledge is imparted rather than used. That's the one that I might have said in areas of your essay, Julian, just because in some places it was getting a little descriptive, and then you forgot just at the end to link it back to that question. Now, you did that an awful lot, but just in parts, you forgot to do it. I knew why you were mentioning certain details, but make sure you've let the examiner know why those details were relevant too. The analysis is appropriate linked to the judgments made. Yes, it is, which supports the judgments, not always explicit. The information has some relevance and is presented with limited structure. Actually, I would go to level 4 for that and say there is a line of reasoning presented with some structure, in the most part relevant. I would actually say you've met most of the parts of level 4. So I would actually be grading for this particular essay around a B, C. Oh, did that wrong. Let's do that again. So you've got a BC for this essay. Very well done. Hopefully you can take my comments on board and just complete a bit of dirt to show how and where you might improve your essay slightly next time. But really well done, Julian. The facts you've remembered are absolutely amazing, and that's what got you this high grade on this occasion. So well done.